DJ PK, and we're joined once again by Brian Geltzeiler from SiriusXM NBA Radio. Brian, good morning.
Good morning, guys. You're giving away Jazz Kings tickets. I'm just wondering, is that a prize or is that like a punishment?
Oh! Yeah, see what you did there.
Oh, we're all fired up today, boys.
So the winner gets 2, the loser gets 4?
Exactly.
It's strange times here. Jazz fans are trying to accustom themselves to going to games, watching the young guys play well, and then have something go wrong in like the last 3 minutes and lose the game.
It's, it's part of the model, right?
Yeah.
It's how the whole thing's been drawn up.
Yeah.
So it's, and listen, the reality is that the Jazz have a decent future. They just got to be careful with this marketing thing. So, you're starting to build a stable of young players. You're seeing some good things out of certain guys, and it certainly can be on the upswing sooner rather than later. But, not moving marketing and signing to that extension will be something that they may regret here going forward, just because I don't think he adds up with the timeline of the rest of this young core.
Yeah, obviously he's a little older. I mean, in some cases he's 6-7 years older. When you look at it being 28, he still has prime, but the other guys, George has made a quantum leap. You had I assume you had an opportunity to at least be aware of Ace Bailey in your backyard there in Piscataway.
Absolutely.
And what do you think of his progression this year? Because I think it's okay. I see something there. I think they're excited that they have him, and we'll see what the next 3 to 4 years brings. But what do you think?
It's kind of what I expected, which is that there's adjustments that he's still making, but the athleticism is there. The individual shot making, it's not there yet. You see the path for it to be there. And there's definitely the trajectory to being a star-level scorer there for him. It's just going to start a little bit slow because there's a lot of bad habits to undo. Listen, last year at Rutgers, Steve Peichel let him and Dylan Harper do whatever the heck they wanted to do. And when you get into the NBA, you can't do it that way. Now, Harper has adjusted much better, but a lot of that adjustment has to do with context, And listen, I don't fault Bailey for the stuff that went on pre-draft and after draft. He got rid of the agent, Omar Cooper, that was steering him in the wrong direction. And he's really a good kid by all accounts. Anybody who's had contact with him loves Ace Bailey. And I think he's going to be a really good NBA player. But this is kind of what I expected this year. He's retreated a little bit from the bad habits, but it's also kind of at times, shot his aggression in the foot a little bit. And you want to see kind of a middle ground there. He will get there, and I think he's going to be an outstanding player. I think it was a super draft pick that Jazz fans are going to love for the future. But I think you have to understand this was not a guy that was coming into a situation where he had the NBA readiness of Cooper Flagg or Con Knipple, or to be able to fit into a really good context around good players like Dylan Harper and VJ Edgecombe. It just wasn't going to be that for Ace Bailey in Utah. It doesn't mean that he can't catch those guys and be every bit as good as any of those guys, because I think it can be. I think he'd be really, really good. It's just a question of giving him the right kind of runway and the right kind of timeline. And in all fairness to the Jazz, they're doing exactly that.
We've got some relatively new teams at the top of the Western Conference, mostly built through the draft. Obviously, SGA was a trade for Oklahoma City, but Thunder, Spurs, the Pistons in the East. Do you think that any of the teams that are chasing veterans right now, whether it's Giannis or Harden, are there any deals out there that are going to catapult a team that's maybe a little more towards the middle into that group with the Thunder, Spurs, and Pistons, or not?
It's a very interesting question, because when you look at who's available and what is going to have to be given up for who's available, it's tough to see that. Now, listen, if the Sixers decided they wanted to do something, they could be one move away from being an elite-level team in the Eastern Conference. I think Boston, if this new ownership group is willing to suck up the repeater tax, and it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. They could add a big, get Tatum back, and be the best team in the East. And so I think that's worthwhile. The one team I would tell you in the East I'd have an eye on a little bit with the guys that are available right now, and I know how aggressive they have tried to be here because of how well the team's played this year, is the Toronto Raptors. And so, but also depends who comes available. I don't think they're going to be a player for Giannis because the conversation stops when Milwaukee asks for Scotty Barnes. But, you see even Harden coming available and Cleveland and the Clippers being advanced on talks, who knows what's happened there? That's not a done deal. And not that if I'm the Raptors, I'm running to get James Harden, but I think the Raptors are going to lay in the weeds a little bit there. When it comes to the Western Conference, listen, I think the Rockets have to add somebody at point guard. And one of the things that no one has really talked about regarding the Schroeder to Cleveland deal with Keon Ellis, which was a very good deal for Cleveland, is that 2 point guards in McCollum and Schroeder have gone off the market that both would have been very useful to Houston that's desperate at the position. So it's going to be very interesting to see what they do. If they can bring in a point guard, then the other team that hasn't brought in a point guard that needs a point guard desperately is the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I know they're chasing Giannis. I personally think that's a pipe dream, but I think the team in the West between the Rockets and the Timberwolves, if one of them is able to land a point guard, that could certainly be a launching pad to be a top of the conference team come playoff time.
I'm wondering where you stand on guys putting up numbers in losing situations, because there's some thought, well, who cares? What does it really mean? What have you proven? And obviously the Jazz have that with just that I had mentioned with Keontae George. We see him every game, obviously, that he plays, and it looks like the thing that's impressed me, the stats are there, clearly, obviously, but the way he's handling himself, when there are not that many clutch situations for them to be in, and it's all relative anyway, but it's like he's just got this persona like, hey, I'm going to get the ball, I'm going to make the shot. I've been impressed with him, but yet it's still in a losing situation. So where do you stand on guys doing that?
He's been efficient, I have to say. I can't fault his level of efficiency. The only thing I will say regarding him is that some of the shot selection stuff probably won't play all that well on a good team. And it's because he does, he's a little loose with the shot selection. But it's very hard to criticize the guy's shot selection when he's playing as efficiently as George is. So, listen, I do think that that's going to be the one thing as they get better where he's going to have to fit in a little better. But right now on this team, the shots are available and he's making them. And so I really don't have a big issue with it. And I think as they develop this roster, as guys get better, he's going to have to be a little smarter about the shots he takes. At times, move the ball a little bit more. He dribbles out a lot of shot clocks. With all that said, again, he's still averaging 6.6 assists a game. He's getting to the free throw line. He's got a true shooting percentage of 61%. The dude, he's playing great. He really is. But I do think the one element that you look at with putting up big numbers on a bad team is are you going to have a situation as a team gets better where he tailors his shot selection to be able to fit a better group around him? That, to me, is an important question.
The other guy who's scoring a lot is Markkanen, and you referenced this earlier, and I'm curious what you think about that decision to sign him and how this may play out. I thought when they did it, they were probably trying to hold on to two paths. There's one path where they go forward and they have a chance to use all these draft picks and young players and go get a really good player, in which case they've already got Markkanen, and now they can go, right, make a run to get to the conference final or, see whatever. And then there's another path where that doesn't happen, and maybe with a year and a half left on his deal, they do move him. At that point, he'd probably be 30, and he hasn't played a lot of, he hasn't played a 70-game season yet. It's not like he's got a lot of minutes on him, and he's 7 feet tall and he can shoot it, so maybe they could still move him, in another 2 seasons when he has a year and a half left on his deal. What do you think about those two paths? How realistic are they?
Well, I think the Jazz missed a window because one of the things, and a lot of teams were caught, out of left field with this, which is I don't think anybody really measured appropriately how much the second apron was going to make contracts north of $50 million, no matter how good a player is, things that teams are staying away from. And I think that's become a major impediment. There was a window there for the Jazz where they could have gotten one of these Godfather types of offers for Markkanen that Milwaukee's soliciting for Giannis right now. That was out there for them. And they made the decision to extend him and not do that, figuring that would be out there for them later with the understanding about how well Markkanen's going to produce. Well, Markkanen's produced great this year, 27-7. He's shooting the ball certainly quite well. 47% from the field. 36% from three could be a little bit better. But another guy, 61% true shooting percentage. Guy's playing great basketball. The problem is that who wants over $50 million on their books right now? Like, is he going to be the second best player on a legit title contender? I don't know that you guys can answer that question. I don't know that I can answer that question. And if you can't answer that question, it's a lot of money for him. And that's kind of what you're seeing right now. Teams are shying away from those huge numbers. It's one of the reasons that John Morant doesn't have a lot of trade value. It's everything has to do with the contract. It's the reason the Knicks can't unload Karl Anthony Towns for any kind of value right now. these contract sizes in the second apron era are really, really toxic no matter how good a player is. And that's where I think the Jazz may have gotten caught holding the bag. And to your point, waiting may be the only option that they have as you get deeper into the deal, where one of the selling points is financial flexibility. Because, again, teams were for a while looking to trade guys that were extended because they felt like they had them locked up for a while. The problem is these locked up numbers are not on reasonable deals. And as much as the cap goes up, these are still taking huge chunks of the cap, and it becomes very, very hard to build around them, especially if you're one of these teams that's trading a lot of first-round picks, which is keeping you from having cost-controlled talent, cheap labor, because you don't have the draft picks to go make to be able to supplement a la Oklahoma City, a la San Antonio right now, even Houston to a lesser extent. If you don't have that, these deals well into the $50 million that go out a bunch of years, teams stay away from them. So I think kind of as much as you say, it'd be a plan to hold Markkanen, I almost think it's a mandate. I don't know if you have a choice.
Can anything be done about tanking?
Listen, it's always going to exist. To me, I would flatten all the lottery odds, that all lottery teams are created equal, and the first four or the first five have a shot at a pick and everybody else slots in afterwards. And that way, the best you're going to do by tanking is get to number 6. That's all. I would make tanking less attractive that way. I think even having these weighted lottery odds is favoring tanking. Even the ones that they flatten where the top 3 could all be the same. And the other part is this. I do think that the league has to absolutely figure out how they're going to handle protections on picks. I think protections on picks has caused some very bad tanking situations. Okay, last year the Sixers were as bad as possible to make sure they kept that pick. The year before, it was Dallas making sure that they could keep the pick that ended up getting them Derek Lively. It's that, to me, the protections on picks is the part that's really creating it the most. And again, teams that are going into seasons designing to be bad, you hate to see that happen. But flatten some lottery odds, okay, and don't have weighted lottery anymore, and you'll see how fast that changes. That'll certainly incent teams to want to be in the play-in tournament more. You can make the play-in and still get the number 1 overall pick. You can certainly. Dallas did that last year. So I think if you flatten those odds and make it 5 teams instead of 4, and then, really when it comes to protections on picks, I don't know that you can say, hey, going forward, there's no such thing as trading protected picks. I'm not positive what the solution is, but that's, I think, the spot where the league has to really brainstorm, because the pick protection stuff has caused some egregious situations over the last couple of years.
And see, that's where you go back to what you said earlier about the system, because Philly did it. The whole league watched Philly, who should have been one of the best teams in the league. Instead, they make themselves, with a little bad luck and then some decisions, they make themselves one of the worst teams in the league, and they get lucky, and they get rewarded with Edgecombe. And when everybody sees that, the number of people wanted Edgecombe here, he's playing in the Big 12, so all the Ute Cougar fans are seeing him, and he's paying off. So Philly did it, and you can say it's horrible, but you also got to say it absolutely paid off.
It works. It works. Listen, OKC was as bad as they could be for 2 years. A couple of years later, they win an NBA championship.
Yeah.
If you do it the right way, it works. And that's why you really need some systemic changes here. Listen, part of what OKC did is this bites at the apple strategy and trading all the picks and then keeping all the picks. So I don't want to say it was all luck with them. It's been a lot of smarts. You drafted Jalen Williams. You drafted that Chet Holmgren was a number 2 overall pick. But you drafted him, and you end up being in a situation where, and by the way, over Jabari Smith, and you end up being in a situation where you have one of the best defensive players in the league, and you have this big 3 for the future and all these picks, and now the Dorts and the Carusos are going to get moved, and Casey Wallace's and A.J. Mitchell's are going to move up, and guys you draft are going to go into those roles. And now it's a system that just keeps feeding itself. And so because you're going to re-up yourself on some first rounders, trading guys like Dort and Caruso have that kind of value. So they use tanking to create a system now that works for them in the second apron era. So yes, but it can work, and we've seen it work. And that's where kind of the problem comes in. And listen, I know people were somewhat alarmed last year that Dallas, who was a playing team, ends up with the number 1 overall pick. I think it's great. I think it's great because it shows you can try to tank to increase your chances. There's no guarantee that tanking is absolutely going to work. And again, I've flattened the lottery odds, and I do think something just has to be done regarding pick protections. I don't know how you do that, because any arbitrary line that you leave, maybe you can't protect one outside the top 5. Okay, so it's a top five. It's top five essentially you can protect. You can't protect beyond that. Like the league can certainly put some restrictions on that and make you where you don't have protections on straddling the line between being in the playoffs and out of the playoffs. Now again, would that have solved the Philly problem last year? It would not have. Would it have solved the Dallas problem from a couple of years back? It would have. So I think my point is this: I just don't know that there's a magic bullet, but I think you do have to start to put some rules in place here that are going to make it that much harder to tank.
How are you handling this winter?
Oh, it's cold. I never been one to complain about cold. It is cold, man. It is cold day in and day out. It's a pain in the ass. Some part of my French. You know what I mean? It's you know. And I hate wearing a heavy jacket every single day, and I got to wear the heavy jacket every single day. And you know what? You guys know, the older you get, the colder you get. So yeah, I'm not. The last couple of winters have been fine, haven't bothered me. This winter, and the thing is, it feels endless. I'm this stupid groundhog saw his damn shadow yesterday. I got 6 more weeks of this nonsense. I mean, come on. I am ready to be out on the golf course, boys. I got to tell you.
Yeah, but the Yankees and the Mets and the Phillies and the Red Sox are all going to sell a lot of tickets off this cold. Maybe even the Orioles and the Nationals too.
Yeah, no, it'll be fun. Listen, baseball season will be fun around here. I'm a big Met guy. Mets redid their team. Yankees didn't do anything to get better. And Brian Cashman wants to tell all their fans that they are better. I don't know what he bases that on, but at least I got something different to look at with the Mets. New pitcher in there, a couple new hitters. They kind of changed the mix. So, listen, we'll see how all that plays out. And again, baseball will be fun this year. Red Sox should be better also. Anybody that can go out there and have a legit chance to beat the Yankees, they're in my corner.
When I was a kid growing up in Parsippany, I would in March, man. You're right. The winter just lasts forever, and I got tons of family back there, so I know this one has been even worse than usual. But I'd get off that bus, man, on Beverick Road off of 46, and I would sprint home to watch. I had this little black and white TV, and both my parents worked. I'd be by myself. I'd sprint from the bus stop home to Tioga Avenue in Lake Hiawatha and catch the last couple innings of the Mets on, what was it? I think it was on WOR Channel 9 because they do the spring training games, some of them. And I would look on Sunday, the Star Ledger, get the paper to see which games are going to be on. And then I would just sit there and thinking, oh, look at Florida. That must be awesome. That must be paradise. And we're only a couple of weeks away from the season starting. We're finally going to get spring. And every time, man, I just couldn't wait. So I was feeling your pain there these last few weeks. I got it on my phone. I always keep Parsippany on my phone for the weather. And I see the high is 17. I'm thinking, oh, my gosh, that's just awful. Brutal.
But it's funny you're talking about that because you talk about Beverwick Road and Tioga Lane. I drive through there all the time because I play golf at the Knoll Country Club.
Oh, of course,
so
yeah.
That's my course. So I'm in that area all the time coming through there when the weather's gorgeous. I'll actually be driving through there a lot with air conditioning cranking on me because I just played 18 holes in 95-degree heat. So, it's, so there's a little bit of an irony with you naming those roads where really, that's my summer neck of the woods.
Yeah, it was right down the street from where I grew up.
Brian, always good to have you on. We appreciate the time. Thanks for talking NBA with you. We'll bother you a little later in the season.
Bother me whenever you want, guys. Right. It's always my pleasure. I'll talk to you both soon. Take care.
Brian Geltzeiler, Sirius XM NBA Radio. Coming up, Mike Folta, Utah Mammoth radio voice, joins us in about 15 minutes. Hat trick for Nick Schmaltz and a win. One more game before the Olympic break. We'll talk with Mike. Coming up in 15 minutes right here on The Zone.